G'day guys, Jake here again from Bain Racing, and we have another porting series on my favourite, the RB26. Let's get into it. Alright, so we've got the cylinder head on the bench. As I said, this is an RB26. The cylinder head was already built by another shop, but the customer wasn't super happy with it. And yeah, the ports are, not great, but I don't like bagging other people's work out. We've just got to obviously tidy them up and do a little better job. So we've got the Plasma Man template on the head, so we're going to go through and tidy all this up. As I said, there was no match porting done or anything like that, so we're just going to tidy that up. Then obviously we're going to tidy the divider up and fix the texture. The RBs, I like them a lot finer than this, so as you can see it is quite coarse right through the port. Yeah, I don't know what that is there, so we're just going to go through and obviously fix that a little bit. Alright, so now we've got a basic understanding what we're going to do with this cylinder head. Now we're going to actually get into the math and actually see what areas we need. I'm probably actually going to weld up the bottom of the divider. I'm sure people have seen me do that before. It's a horrible dead area, and you can gain a few CFM out of it and stabilize the port a little better in that transitional period. And it is a huge transitional period, and I'll show you on the whiteboard why it's such a problem area for the RB26, let's say, because they already do have a fairly big window in them. All right, we'll go and have a look at the board. All right, guys, RB26. So we'll start at the window. Obviously, RB26 standard window is about that 625, 650 square millimeters. Again, depends on the cylinder head and the casting. I think the Plasma Man works out about 1675. It's the smallest of most of the billet aftermarket manifolds, and probably one of the best ones for most of your street type stuff, and even big horsepower. As long as your RPM's fitting. If you're doing 10,000 RPM, maybe a Hypertune will be better for you. But for most of those engines, even as high as 9,000 RPM, depending on the cubes and stuff, the Plasma Man's more than enough. Once you start looking at the areas and especially the growth rates in the runners, because I think the Plasma Man one finishes at about 1,800 at the bell, and some of them are well over 2,500, which is absolutely ridiculous for even a 3 litre. I think 3 litre run, again, depending on RPM. So yeah, run them at like 22. Again, it really depends. But the biggest issue with these is obviously the divider. So it's roughly about that 524, 525, even 530 at best each side, just as the divider starts, and the head shrinks down really quickly. So we're only at 1,000 and basically 1,050 square millimeters. So we've gone from 1,650 odd, and that's going to get bigger because we're putting a Plasma Man window in it, to 1,050, all within not much more than an inch. So that's dramatic, and it has dramatic effects on obviously your density thinning, because we're going to accelerate the air all of a sudden, very instantly. So trying to harness any inertia mechanism, which is the key to all filling, just goes out the window, because we want a stable velocity gradient. We don't want something that's going to go increase its velocity by 50% within a couple of millimeters of the port. And then as far as the throat goes, we're 31 mil at the throat, so we're like 1,500 square millimeters, so which is absolutely perfect to support this window at about 8,500 on a 26 by the time we fix this. So logging the actual or mapping, I should say, the cross-sectional area, this is sort of what the port creates. So as you can see, we have a really big cross-sectional area, and then whack, it drops really tight at the divider. That's why I laugh at a lot of people who say don't knife edge the dividers, this and that. This is the biggest area that you make horsepower, and especially the RB26 is right here. If we can fix this so it actually transitions properly, now we've extended that inertia line, and now we're getting the physics of air to work for us. So this is what we want to address straight away. The window on an RB26 really isn't that much of a problem because they are really, really big. So there's plenty of area in there to support these valve sizes and bigger valves again. And I've done videos before on, you know, oversized valves with slightly smaller throats in them. So we've run them as high as like 91 mil, but sometimes it's worth your while to go to a bigger valve, knock a little bit off it, cut the throat down to say, you know, 88, leave a bit more mass in the seat, and that engine will live a lot longer as far as seat physics go, because we've got a little bit more mass. You know, when you thin those seats right out, they don't last long. They tend to break down, overheat and collapse, and all sorts of stuff start eating valves. But yeah, this is the area we want to address. So we know most of our attention in this port is going to be from where the divider starts. And obviously with the vertical divider in the RB26, I don't like them anyway. So I think we're actually going to pop some weld in there. So from here, we're just going to basically port around the divider a little bit so it's clean alloy, and then I can actually weld in there and put a little bit of shape in it, because the RB26 divider meets the floor pretty much like that. So what we tend to do is put a bit of weld in there, and then we can shape this divider a little bit, because the transitional length of a divider is also very important. If all the air coming into the port hits a vertical wall at once, one, just like a set of stepped headers, we're developing harmonics, one, obviously, and also two, we're creating a massive step in velocity and harmonics and all sorts, where if we can shape the divider this way, see any good cylinder head has what I call a transitional length, where it starts to where it ends. If it's vertical, it starts and stops. So that tends to shock the air a little bit and can create shock waves and all other problems that we don't want. So we try and put a little bit of a shape into it. That way we've extended the transitional length. Just like when you cut something, if you try and cut something all at once, it's really not going to cut well. We want to slice the air slowly. This gives us the least amount of drag coefficient possible. So what we're going to do is put a little bit of weld in there and try and get a little bit of shape into it, knife edge it up, fix this horrible change in cross-sectional area, and then we can harness the, you know, the natural mechanics of inertia filling, right? Because all engines, no matter whether they're supercharged or NA, this is why I say look at all engines as boosted, because all boost is doing is changing the pressure differential. We're always dealing with a pressure drop, and we're always dealing with that inertia velocity mechanism. Velocity really doesn't change when it comes to boost, because the velocity is set by the piston and the restriction in our primary induction length. So we're going to address that area, and then from there basically start porting and get this thing on size. Try not to make it too big, and again I've demonstrated this many times with the 26. One of Jason's circuit cars, I think they had a fully CNC'd cylinder head, and again a lot of the CNC heads, they're up near 1700 square millimeters at the window, so again way too big. Basically it was a really good back-to-back, because all we did was change his cylinder head for mine, because they had a problem with it. So they put all their cams, all their valves, all their everything into our cylinder head. Our head was about 20 CFM down, but again we were on a smaller average CSA and a smaller window, and we ended up making around, I think it was 45 or 48 horsepower more at the same boost, and better thresholds, better everything, which is, you know, what you want at the end of the day. So first thing we do is we're going to address the inconsistencies in the cross-sectional area where it starts at the divider. So let's get into that. Well, this one's getting a bit long, guys, so we'll stop it here, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.